Hello, everyone, and welcome to our College Pathway program. This is Module 355, our College Coach Panel, and I'm delighted to be joined by three very experienced and expert college coaches today. Firstly, down in the bottom left of your screen, we have Paul Marco. Paul completed his 17th season as the head soccer coach at Binghamton University in 2018. Under his guidance, the Bearcats have been transformed from a team that won just 2 games the year before his arrival into an established program that has become a fixture on the conference, regional, and national scene. Coach Marco has led Binghamton to 2 America East Conference titles, 2 America East regular season titles, and 7 appearances in the conference title game. From 2003 to 2008, Binghamton advanced to a conference record 6 straight championship games. As the Bearcats have made their place among the elite squads in the conference, they've also gained attention in the national polls. And in 4 seasons since Coach Marco became the head coach, Binghamton has either received votes or been ranked in both the NSCAA, Adidas, and College Soccer News weekly polls. Furthermore, the Bearcats have been ranked among the top 10 teams in the Northeast region 5 times since 2003. Under Coach Marco's guidance, the Bearcats have excelled just as much in the classroom as they have done on the playing field. The 2007 team posted the highest combined GPA in the nation out of over 200 programs. The Binghamton 2005 squad had the 3rd highest combined GPA among all NCAA Division I men's soccer programs. The 2006 team was ranked 4th, and the 2008 squad tied for 5th. Individually, Binghamton has had 1 COSIDA Academic All-American, 1 COSIDA Academic All-District selection, and 9 NSCAA Scholar All-Americans since Coach Marco became the head coach. Coach, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
In the right of your screen on the bottom, we have Coach Danny Whelan. Coach Whelan was hired on January 27th, 2018, and takes over as the Bloomsburg University head men's soccer coach. Coach Whelan replaces Paul Payne after 19 seasons at the helm of the program, and he left as the school's all-time winningest coach. Coach Whelan is no stranger to Bloomsburg, as he served as Payne's graduate assistant coach during the 2012 and 2013 campaigns, while also serving in the same capacity for the women's soccer program in 2012. He returns to the Huskies men's soccer program after 4 seasons as an assistant coach for the women's soccer program at Barry University. And during his time with the Buccaneers, he helped the team to a 46-12-8 mark, including a 26-4-5 in the Sunshine State Conference. Barry won the Sunshine State Conference regular season titles in 2014 and 15, along with the 2015 SSC Tournament Championship. Barry won the South Regional title in 2015 as well, advancing to the NCAA quarterfinals for the first time since 2003. Coach Whelan, thanks for being here with us today as well.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
And also on top of the top right of your screen, you'll see Coach Adam Clay. Coach Clay is a former 3-time regional All-American at Bloomsburg University with over 15 years of coaching experience, and will begin his 8th season as head coach of Penn State Harrisburg women's soccer program in the 2019 fall season. In 2012, Coach Clay helped lead the Lions to the Northeastern Atlantic Conference semifinals and helped guide 2 players to the NEAC first team and another athlete to the NEAC second team. In 2013, Clay was the first coach to lead Penn State Harrisburg into Capital Athletic Conference competition, and his team also had the honor of claiming the school's first ever CAC victory with their 4-0 win over Wesley on October 23rd of that year. In 2015, the team led the very competitive Capital Athletic Conference, leading and scoring with 27 goals, and freshman Kristen Stark earned the program's first ever CAC First Team All-American nod, as well as the Rookie of the Year award. In 2017, the Lions were the first women's team sport to earn a spot in the CAC playoffs as the 6th seed, and they also earned a bid to advance to the ECAC Elite 8, defeating the number 1 seed Lebanon Valley College. In 2018, Harrisburg lost in the playoffs to the eventual runner-up Mary Washington 1-0, and Coach Clay helped 3 players make the CAC All-Conference team, a record for the women's program at Penn State Harrisburg. As a player, Coach Clay earned all-conference honors as a senior at Dallas Senior High School and was part of state championship contending teams in 1999 and 2000. He also had a successful collegiate career at Bloomsburg University, where he was a team captain for 2 seasons and a 3-time regional All-American first-team selection. He's currently Bloomsburg University's third all-time leading scorer and was the recipient of the Danny Litweiler Award, the Underclass Male Athlete of the Year. Coach Clay, thanks for joining us as well.
Thanks so much for having me.
So over the last week or so, we've had quite a few questions come in from our players from across the country, and we would love to get your perspective on some of these. So I'm going to start it off with a question that came in earlier this week to you, Coach Marco, and that is, what is the hardest part about juggling school and soccer at the collegiate level, particularly talking from a D1 perspective for you?
Well, first, perhaps we'll talk about the time constraints. We're allowed to be with the players 132 days out of the year. That's in the academic calendar, both fall and spring semester. We typically use 132 of those days. So most Division I schools are at least 130. You're allowed 20 hours a week, 3 hours on a competition day, and 4 hours on a non-competition day, with 1 day mandatory off per week. So most programs are using those hours. So yeah, it's a difficult to have anything other than academics and athletics. The time commitment is strenuous for soccer, but not as much as other sports. Baseball, for example, a game day for them, typically a doubleheader, would be perhaps a 10 to a 12-hour day. So soccer probably, wow, is one of the fewer hour requirements. But no, it's a difficult grind. Both academically, you're carrying around 15 credit hours, 16 to 18 credit hours, and then add in your 15 to 20 hours a week of soccer. It's a big commitment.
Wow, yes, a really big commitment. So from a D2 perspective, Coach Whelan, is it similar or is it very different from your perspective for any one of our players that are looking for potentially as a D2 option?
Really just to echo what Coach Marco just said, it's very similar. We have slightly less days that we can use in the calendar year, but only by a matter of a couple of weeks. And typically, again, our schedule in the fall is 6 days a week. We are required to give 1 day off as per the NCAA mandate. But again, when we come back after, the players will get a small break from us with coaching and organized soccer over the Christmas festive period. But obviously, there's an onus, even when we're not with them, that players keep themselves in shape. And it's really, a year-round commitment. And then obviously when we come back in the spring season as well, we have, again, a 45-day window at Division II where we can practice and play competitions 5 days out of the 7 every week. But also on top of that, before that window starts, we do have a period where we do conditioning and weightlifting when the students get back to campus. So really, yeah, the constraints are there. It's a really huge commitment, like Coach Marco said as well. And, something that, again, I think if you are, thinking of playing college soccer, very important to take into consideration before you make that decision.
Thanks. That's great information. And Coach Clay, as the D3 representative, obviously D1 and D2 being different, very different to D3. If our players are looking at a D3 level program, for whether that's because of from an athletic perspective or an academic perspective, what is the way that they can juggle the soccer and the soccer at the D3 level?
Yeah, I think it depends on the D3 program. When I first started, we didn't even have a spring season. Since then, we've tried to build it up. So I think the best of the best, you're going to see similar to the D1 and D2 schedule. Some of the difference are off-season optional, so that basically from the time we end in the fall till we get started for our 5 to 6 week spring season, we're still doing the lifting 3 to 4 days a week, speed and agility type stuff, but it has to be with the strength coach. But we still want to see that stuff happen. So I don't think it's too much less, but there is, I think, that little bit of difference in the fact that we can't mandate some of that off-season regimen. But we're also at the same time looking for players that really want to be at that level. But I know there's a lot of D3s. Like I said, we started that way, 8 years ago. There wasn't a spring season. That might not be as extensive. So for that balance, I think there's more options and flexibility there.
Well, great. Thanks. I mean, that's a really good information for our players from the three perspectives of your programs. One of the most common questions we get, particularly from when players start getting into that kind of 8th grade freshman and into their sophomore years, is the effective way for them to start communicating. So as a coach, and from a parent perspective, what is the most effective way for them for players and or parents, which I'm assuming mostly players is the ones that you guys want to hear from, to start communicating from you? Is it by an email? Is it by a phone call? Is it by sending you a video? What is, from that very first step for them, what is the most effective way? And I'll come back to Coach Clay with that one first.
Yeah, I think for us, we're definitely not looking at 8th grade, 9th grade. We'll get some kids that will reach out at the 9th grade level. Basically, sophomore on is when we really start identifying and putting them on a list. And I would say, it's really whatever communication that gets to us works the best. We'd love to see them at the tournaments, but I think it's just that repetitive of showing that they have interest, because there's so many players and we all, I think, get so many emails. So sometimes it's even, hey, you can email me 2 or 3 times, and they might not be a senior or junior, they might be a sophomore, and I'm going to make time and maybe skip a senior or junior that week to go see them at a showcase because they've shown that interest. And obviously, if they come onto campus, do a visit, not that I'd be opposed with phone calls, we do a lot of them as well. It's just kind of just showing us that level of interest, and we know, hey, they're interested in our school and our program, and then from there we want to identify the player that we're similarly have that in.
And Coach Whelan, is that the same for you? Those players that show the interest in your program in your school, they kind of go towards the top of your list, like Coach Clay is saying there.
Yeah, it's you have to really, again, like Coach Clay said, we get a lot of emails, not only from, from my perspective, players in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, etc., but all over the world, daily. Agencies, everyone, and Coach Marco, I'm sure, will attest more to that even for his team. So for us, it's really useful to be able to identify, like Coach Clay said, who has a genuine interest in our university. And that's not only based on soccer, that's based on academics, based on what the student athlete is actually looking for in their college experience. So I agree. I think the best way is originally an email. Obviously, in that email, you want all that relevant information for us as coaches: what position you play, who you play for, what year you graduate, academic information. Obviously, highlights is a huge help if you can get that, or game footage. And one unique advantage, in Division 2 that I have as a coach is that we can actually bring players onto campus and do a tryout from their junior year onwards. So they can do that once, but allows the player to come in and train with the team. So obviously, again, it works both ways. It allows the player to come and evaluate, myself and my staff as coaches, as well as us getting a real up close and personal look at the player, getting to know them a bit better, and really seeing how they fit into a typical training session that we put on. And from there, again, showcases, game schedules are obviously great, and a huge part of our job is recruitment. And I think if you watch any level of soccer now, that's even in the professional game, it's all about recruitment. So. A huge importance to us. And again, it's so, with that importance comes an importance on the player to make sure that they're, giving themselves the best opportunity as possible to be seen.
And Coach Marco, what's the number one advice that you think you could give young players, whether that's freshman, sophomore, whatever their age is, but they're ones that are starting that recruitment, obviously as a D1 program, if they think that they can play in a program like yours? What is the advice that you could give them to starting that process and getting themselves on that radar of a coach?
Well, first, just to look at the timeline. So once you begin 9th grade, you become a prospect. And when you're a prospect, that means that all of your grades from 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, because usually kids are making decisions before 12th or during their 12th grade, the college admissions process will be looking at your grades 9th, 10th, and 11th. So you only have 3 years, really. So if you have a bad year, now it's 1 out of 3. So you're a prospect in 9th grade. That's when your college journey kind of begins. If you did take in 8th grade some 9th grade classes, those might count as well. But for us, the recruiting rules have just changed recently this month, slowing the process down a little bit. We can have any contact with 9th graders or 10th graders currently. That changes this month.
Wow.
So in the past, it used to be where a 9th grader or a 10th grader could call us and we could speak to them. We can't have any contact with 9th graders or 10th graders after this month. For the women's side, they're a little bit more advanced ahead of the schedule, I guess you would say, than the guys. Ninth and 10th grade girls were making commitments to Division I programs, and the guys, we were behind that. We were more on sophomores and juniors. I really like that the process is going to try to be slowed down a little bit and let kids be kids for a little longer. But, as the two guys said, everything works. I mean, email, phone calls, just realize we can't call you back. There's certain rules that prohibit us from contacting you depending on what year you are. But again, put yourself in front of as many faces as you can, as many places as you can. The video highlights and things like that. I guess one advice I'd say on a video highlight, make sure that it's a highlight and not a low light. So if you send us a video and you're a goalkeeper and the ball goes in the goal a few times, I don't want to see the ball go in the goal if you're a goalkeeper.
It's a fair point.
Yeah. And the other piece is show the clip. So soccer's a little bit different, but when you put a clip together, have it start with something. And if it's a pass that you're showing that's, you've played a through pass, let's see where the ball ends up. So a highlight might cut it out. You might see the ball leave your foot, go behind the line, but it might not work out. So you clip that out. We're then going to say, can we see the full game? Because coaches want to see your impact within the game and what it looks like, not just that little piece that you've pulled out.
Right, that's really great. I appreciate the three of you on that. Now, one of the things that we've gone through kind of our college pathway program here with FCUSA over the last kind of 4 or 5 months, and one of the most common things that keep coming up, particularly for the younger players and talking kind of freshman and sophomore ages, is the role of college ID camps. So going to you, Coach Whelan, from a college ID camp perspective, what are the benefits for players to do it? Should they be doing? How many should they be doing to give them a sense of players? And obviously, it varies by ages and where they are in their recruitment process. But if you could speak to a little bit on that, that would be great.
Yeah, I think it's something that I've found personally from a coaching point of view, wherever I've been, it's been very useful. And we do genuinely take players that we see from camps. Firstly, I think, like my point with the original contact, is that if you attend a camp, it does show a genuine interest in the university. I know that the downside to them is that they can be expensive, and if you're exploring many options, it can soon add up into costs. But I think it's important that, again, if you have a genuine interest in a university, they're very beneficial. Typically, they will be a full day event. They'll give you plenty of hours to work with the coaching staff again, familiarize yourself with their style. But as well, obviously, look at things like the facilities. A lot of them will include campus tours, which might be a good way to get a look around the campus if you can't make it up during a weekday, which is when they're typically given at a lot of institutions. Also from there, again, it gives us an opportunity as coaching staff to see a bit more, of things that we don't always get to evaluate right away when we see you play, such as your personality. We might get the opportunity to just speak with you and have a conversation a bit further than we might do otherwise. And again, I think, it's a way for you as players to really, have a closer evaluation of the college, of the coaching staff. It might be that, again, you go to a clinic and think, this is great, I can see myself being here and working with the coaching staff for 4 years. Or it might be the case that you use it to really rule out schools and say, okay, I've had the benefit of going there, seeing what a day in the life would be like, working with the staff. Maybe, their style is a little bit different than what I'd like or what I'm used to. So again, from my point of view, very beneficial.
And from a Division I perspective, Coach Marco, the role of ID camps, within the D1 setup, is it beneficial for our players to be exploring many of these camps, or should it be when they come into a camp, they should be narrowing it down so that they can find out, as Coach Whelan says, a little bit more about the school because it's more of a serious choice for them?
Well, I think a few things. Sometimes kids just like to get on college campuses. So attending a college ID clinic gets you on some campus and you're using it more for an experience than you are for that's a place I want to go to school. I do think that the ID camps for us are terrific. I mean, many of the Division I programs are using them. not only to market and promote their college program, especially if it's during the season, they might tie a game into it or not. It's also a way, as Coach Whelan said, is to interact with the soccer players on the field. You kind of get a feel for who they are. Sometimes the clinics are a little bit smaller, some are 40 or 50, players, student athletes coming onto campus. You can get to know all their names within an hour. And, it's much more intimate than it would be at, just say, one of those big camps where you're going where there's 200 to 300 kids at one.
And
so different.
Right. Okay. And Coach Clay, from your perspective, are ID camps something that you use heavily in your recruitment for players on your program at Penn State Harrisburg?
Yeah, we definitely use them. Again, I think like both coaches said, it's kind of that next opportunity. You get a little more time with each player. And from a commitment side, it says, hey, they're thinking about our school enough that they, spent, $50 or whatever, or $75. I know they all kind of vary ranges. We try to be pretty cost efficient and not really make it about a fundraiser. And it's really more about identifying talent. So we love them. The kids that come definitely go up on our radar. Sometimes we have those conversations right then. We do a college tour, sometimes a lunch. We usually have players around to answer questions and kind of be around the kids to really, interact a little bit, let them get to know some of the kids they might be playing with in a year or two. The only thing I would make sure to say, kind of just the club kids, and not to step on any college coach's toes, myself included, is just because you got an email to come to your camp, to some college camp, doesn't mean that they're top on your radar. It could just be they're, putting it out there to get that. So, if Duke sends you one, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're looking at you personally.
Right. So one of the things we focus on in our club across the country is both our athletic building, athletic development, and our character development. So aside from, obviously, when you're going to tournaments or you're at an ID camp and you're looking, obviously, at the quality of the play on the field, that's obviously given, and relatively quickly whether that's going to fit into your program, if it's a player that you're looking for. But aside from the on-field, can you talk a little bit, and I'll go to you, Coach Marco, first, a little bit of what else you are looking for in a player at whether it's at a tournament, whether it's at an ID camp, that's non-playing specific as well?
Well, I would say a couple of things. First, somebody's always watching you. So I recall, as you're asking this question, I'm recalling where do players get evaluated? They're evaluated all the time. There was a player once that I was looking at when I was at West Virginia. I remember this. He was in line at the Soccerplex in Maryland at a tournament, and he was maybe 7 or 8 people in front of me. And he was treating the person behind the counter so poorly that I stopped recruiting him just from that one interaction.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think that you're always being looked at. Somebody's always watching you. So when you talk about character development, yeah, we're obviously making our living based on the decisions that 17 to 22-year-olds make. Maybe a little bit older, Danny, 23, 24-year-olds.
I wish.
Yeah. So, they are students. So we're looking to see some growth. We're looking to see who they are. We're trying to get to know them very well before they get to us. We're trying to kind of figure out what's important to them, what core values do they have. We're just trying to figure out who the student athlete is and would they fit in what we're looking for.
And Coach Whelan, can you add anything to Coach Marco has just said in terms of the character building and the off the field potentially that you're looking for in your program?
Yeah, totally agree with Coach's comments there. And I think most importantly, when you commit to a program or even a university, you automatically become a representation of that program or university. And like Coach has said, our jobs are, dependent sometimes on the actions of you. So a huge part of it is, again, how you carry yourself, how you represent yourself, your family, and ultimately your actions represent us as a program, as an institution at times. And again, the soccer part, you could say, okay, on the field is a very small part of your overall time you spend at college or university. You know, what you do in the classroom is important. What you do off the field is important. And like Coach said, someone's always watching you. And we could get into a whole other conversation about social media and everything like that that's going on these days, and the monitoring of that, which happens. But again, for me, when recruitment, it's very important, again, to have that smaller interactions with smaller groups, players individually, get to know them a bit better, get to know their family, and just be sure that if we're bringing them in to represent our program and be a part of our team, that they're going to do that to the best of their ability and represent us well.
And yeah, I think that's definitely something that we try to strive at our club. And Coach Clay, from your perspective, with your girls, and when you're going out and you're looking at tournaments, off the field obviously is an important aspect for your program, as well as you as a coach.
Yeah, I think there's a difference sometimes in the men's and the well. I've kind of always believed, you can select the best players, but if you don't form a team, you're still not going to be ultra successful. Not that you won't be successful with 11 good players, but I don't think you're winning championships without a team. On the female side, I really do spend what feels almost like 50% of the time just working on those relationships, continuity between the different age groups, the freshmen to the seniors. I think as long as we can keep that moving smooth, we're pretty good. But, it's some of the mental issues that will come up between some of the girls that we've seen over the years and the problem. So in the recruiting side, sometimes when we see something that's pretty glaring or even glimpsed, we're going to be hesitant if that player, we feel like could cause
right.
Or again, I know how little the issue can be that sometimes can really blow up into sections of the team and groups and clicks, and it just diverts us from our goal of really trying to win a championship.
Right. And I think, all I can say to all of our FCUSA players is heed the words that the three coaches have said here in terms of when you're being watched and what you do off the field is so important. And you have to hold yourself at a high standard. So we have a couple of minutes left with our coaches. So we're going to go to one more question, and this is really for those players that are going into college that either have committed or have accepted a roster spot at a place. And just I'm going to go around the table and start with you, Coach Clay. If a player has been recruited, they've been offered a roster spot, what should they be doing during the spring and summer of their senior year to prepare themselves for the fall season, either in your program or in any other college program?
Yeah, I think just playing and staying fit is important. I believe almost every college coach in the country is sending them a workout pack. And I'd venture to guess there's less than 10% that are following that to the T. I think if you do, unbelievable shape and an unbelievable position to have a successful year. And then obviously, depending on the spectrum of what you do, is going to affect how the first day goes. I always kind of tell my first year recruit, day one, they're going to have a fitness test in the morning. And then that evening, we're going to play together for the first time as we evaluate. And, so that best player who might have come in a little less fit, has done a fitness test and now they're playing. Well, if they would have started playing, they might have looked at the best player on the field, but They just had a fitness test to start the day. So we just really encourage coming in fit and ready. And the other side of that is we've had multiple players that come in unfit, kind of push through the fitness test, and the next, they're injured for, a week to two. So they've missed 2 of the most important weeks just because they didn't come in prepared for what was going to happen.
Yeah, that's great. And Coach Whelan, for you, what are you looking for your recruits as they come in that senior year, or even into their junior and their summer years of their junior year, that final year before they would come to you? What are you hoping to that your players are doing on a regular basis?
Yeah, I think to go back to say the junior year, like you mentioned, is just making sure you're playing at a high level consistently and maintaining good habits. And then as you get closer to the end of the senior year, it's really preparing yourself and making yourself lift your level to the highest it's going to be. The step up from club in high school is huge. It really is. You won't know it until you get into it. So again, I know a lot of people think they're fit coming in, but when I've seen many recruits arrive on campus, like Coach Adam said there for the first day, and they'll be in for a shock. So again, to give yourself the best opportunity to play and impress, you have to be fit. And the reason for that is, again, unlike some other college sports, we don't have a lot of time to prepare. Maybe your winter sports like basketball, say you can come in, you've got a couple of months to get used to your teammates and impress your coaches and get yourself up to the level. Well, it varies for all of us as coaches. We have 2 weeks with the team before our first game. 2 weeks.
Wow.
So again, that's it. So it's not a lot of time. You can't get fit in that period if you're not fit. So it's vitally important that, again, you get yourself to the level required by the program. And again, they usually communicate that with you. But again, making sure you're just giving yourself the best possible opportunity.
And Coach Marco, from the D1 perspective, is it the same process? You're looking for people, guys coming in to be fit on that day one. What else would you have them, working on through the summer and the spring of their senior year?
Well, I think a few things. First, once you've committed to wherever you're going, your work's only now just begun. I hear so many kids after they've decided where they're going that they want to play at a lesser level and take more time off. And really, that's when the work has now begun. You really have to work harder than you ever have, because the level you're going to is higher. And all the players can do what you currently can do. I think for me, perhaps the thing that as I'm listening to the two coaches speak, just do what you say you're going to do. Nobody sits in our office before they commit when they're in the recruiting process and they say, I'm going to come in unfit. Everybody says they're going to come in fit. Just do what you say you're going to do, and everything should be great. Follow the summer workouts. All coaches will give them out. In the Division I, we come in on a Tuesday for meetings. We start training on a Wednesday, and most are playing an exhibition on Saturday. So there's 3 full days of preparation work before the first exhibition match. Not a lot of time. So don't let your contribution, how much you can contribute, be dictated on how little or how hard you work during the summer.
And I appreciate that. And for all of our FCUSA players, my thanks to our 3 coaches. I would highly recommend you Google and look up Penn State, Harrisburg, Bloomsburg University, and Binghamton University, 3 exceptionally great coaches. My thanks to Coach Clay from Penn State, Harrisburg, Coach Whelan from Bloomsburg University, and Coach Marco from Binghamton University. We really appreciate your insight and thoughts for all of our players. So thank you for your time. And to all of our FCUSA players, please heed the advice of the experts of these college coaches. My thanks again to the college coaches, and we will see you again soon. Thanks for joining us on FCUSA TV. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.